from the great city of Port Harcourt. You're welcome to Atn Business. Business time on Atn. Before today's bulletin is presented, first the headlines. Nigerian Bureau of Statistics to unveil inflation figures. Big banks race to meet the new capital rules. An IMF Executive Board selects Christiana Georgieva as the Managing Director of the IMF. Business leaders discuss challenges operating in the Nigerian environment. Good day, viewers, and welcome to a fresh episode of Atn Business on Atlantic Television Network right here in the city of Port Harcourt. This is the network's medium of bringing the happenings in the economy system and sector of our society to our discerning viewers. This program aims at bringing to the doorstep of the viewers the business, financial, and economic activities from all strata of society. Its delivery is accentuated through the various stock exchanges across the world, news about government's economic activities, private sector's business activities, and laced with expert opinions, stakeholders' analysis, and correspondence reports. Welcome to ATN Business. And now let's go for a very short break, and when we come back, we'll reel out the details. Please stay tuned.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
You're welcome back to ATN Business. And now let's head into the details for today. We'll first start with the money markets. The National Bureau of Statistics is set to unveil inflation figures on Monday, March the 15th, 2024. Correspondent reports that MBS releases its monthly consumer prices index every mid-month. Recall that February's inflation figures rose to 31.70% from 29.90% recorded in January 2024. Meanwhile, Cape Economic Research and Consulting says the country's consumer price index would increase to 32.65% from 31.70 in February 2024. This is as Nigeria's food inflation figure continues to soar, reaching 37.92%. Nigerians have continued to lament the rising cost of living despite the sustained appreciation of the naira against the dollar for the past months. The naira strengthened against major currencies on Monday, and the greenback, the dollar, saw an increased safe haven demand in the wake of an Iranian strike on Israel, putting it at more than 5 months high. Goldman Sachs' projection became a reality when the local currency exchanged below 1,000 naira at some segments of the parallel markets as of late Sunday. The American Investment Bank's economist stated that the naira's bullish momentum on the foreign exchange market will likely cause it to trade for less than 1,000 naira per US dollar in the coming months. Can you hear that? The Tier 1 investment bank claimed that the rally in Nigerian economy and currency helped recover from large losses after 2 devaluations since last June, by being bolstered by capital inflows and successive interest rate hikes. Recall that in March, Goldman Sachs earlier projected that the naira would appreciate to 1,200 per dollar. In 2024, the top bank has implemented several policy initiatives in recent months to bring stability to the foreign exchange market. The CBN increased interest rates to 24.75% at the most recent meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, which helped it recover losses from 2 devaluations that occurred since June of last year. Further gains for the naira results from CBN's ongoing intervention, which involves selling foreign exchange to bureau de change operators at a revised rate. The market anticipates higher inflows of US dollars from the sale of foreign currency bonds in the second quarter of, as revealed by the Finance Minister Wale Edun, and this came when the government offered high-yield short-term debt products at a premium to entice overseas capital into the economy. Nigeria's gross foreign reserves have decreased despite a persistent increase in the world commodities market. The Middle East geopolitical unrest and the anticipation of an Iranian government strike on Israel caused oil prices to soar. Crude oil prices have risen beyond $90 per barrel, and Nigerian grades are trading at a premium to the ICE Brent benchmark despite a drop in the production volume that had a detrimental effect on fiscal performance. Fears over rates have sent the dollar to a 5.5-month high, and Israel and Iran's conflict bolstered the dollar index as it steadied in London trade after surging 5.5% for the month's high on Friday. Demand for haven after Iran's massive missile and drone strike against Israel strengthened the US dollar. However, it seems that the heat had little effect, and Iran also gave the impression that it had finished attacking Israel. According to reports, Israeli ministers also stated that they had no plans to retaliate immediately after the strike. In addition to the expectation of higher for longer U.S. interest rates supported the dollar in the wake of last week's hawkish Federal Reserve signals and high inflation figures. The weak economic prints from China further drained public sentiments towards Asia. March saw a decline in China's disinflation as well as the lower than expected export and import data. Rapidly falling wages that the Federal will lower interest rates in the first half of 2024 also helped to support the dollar. This was followed by high March inflation figures. That's inflation report for the local currency and the local markets. Now let's go to the local market as contains the stock exchange and the NGX. The NGX continued its bearish trajectory for the second consecutive week as the market recorded a 1.09% decline during the week, ending on April 12, 2024, to close at 102,314 points from the previous week's 103,437 points. Equities also lost 613 billion naira as the NGX closed the week with a market capitalization of 57 naira 57 trillion 865 million naira, representing a 1.08 decline from 58 trillion naira at the start of the week. The market, which was closed for 3 days during the week, was mostly affected by the continued bearish performance of banking stocks. Among the top weekly losers, Access Holdings lost a 14.60%. GT Coal had a 13.75% loss, while First Bank of Nigeria Holdings shelved 11.15% loss. Overall market performance, the market's ASI of 102,314 points posted at the close of the trading week was the lowest ASI recorded since March 11, 2024. During the week, there was an overall turnover of 1.132 billion shares, worth 28.6 billion naira, in contrast with last week's overall turnover of 3.68 billion shares, worth 57.8 billion naira. Stocks in the financial services industry dominated the activity chart with a trade volume of 859.6 million shares valued at 20.6 billion naira. It was followed by the conglomerates with a trade volume of 107.9 million shares worth 1.4 billion naira. The consumer goods stocks recorded a total turnover of 51.4 million shares worth 1.9 billion naira during the week. The top gainers during the week, the best performing stock during the week was Morrison Industries, which recorded a 20.75% gain. Owando PLC registered a gain of 10.57%, while Transnational Corporation PLC saw an increase of 10.33%. Deep Capital recorded a gain of 9.68%, followed by Omatech Ventures with an 8.97% increase. Rounding up the top 5 gainers in the market during the week, the top losers during the week were as follows. Access Holdings lost 14.60% during the week, with its market capitalization declining by 117.3 billion naira during the week. United Capital lost 13.92%. GT Co Holdings shelved 13.75%. Flour Mills of Nigeria lost 13.55%. The Sunu Assurances returned 13.24% loss to complete the top five losers in the market. During the week ended April 12, 2024, there was an overall bearish sentiment for stocks worth over 1 trillion naira, as the 12 stocks cumulatively recorded a 394.7 billion naira decline in their market capitalization, representing a 0.81% decline. Zenith Bank, First Bank Nigeria Holdings, and GT Co Holdings recorded price declines. However, other members of the SWOT category, Airtel Afri, MTN, Bua Foods, Bua Cement, Dangote Cement, Seplat, Transcorp Hotel, Transcorp Power, and Geregu Power recorded no price changes during the week. There was a general bearish sentiment as FBN Holdings, UBA, GT Co, Access, and Zenith Bank posted 11.15%, 0.75%, 13.75%, and 14.0%, and 5.88% price declines respectively during the week. Now we'll go to international stock exchange. Asian stocks pulled back while European markets opened higher on Monday as worries about potential escalating tensions in the Middle East rattled financial markets, pushing investors to look for safer places for their money. The future for the S&P 500 gained 0.5%, and that for the The Dow Jones Industrial Average was 0.4% higher. Oil prices fell despite tensions rolling the Middle East, where an attack late Saturday marked the first time Iran had ever launched a military assault on Israel, despite decades of enmity dating back to the country's 1979 Islamic Revolution. Barrel of benchmark U.S. oil declined 97% to $84.69 a barrel. $84.69 a barrel. The Brent crude, the international standard, lost $1.22 to $89.23 per barrel. Slower demand from China, combined with forecasts that growth in supply is outpacing demand, has kept prices in check. While the drone attack has grabbed headlines, its immediate impact on global markets, particularly oil prices and inflation concerns, may be subdued. Stephen is managing partner in Asia trading. Japan's trademark and benchmark Nikkei 225 shipped and slipped 0.7% to 39,232%. In currency trading, the US dollar rose to 153.87 Japanese yen from the 157 yen, hitting another 34-year high as investors shifted towards the traditional haven. In terms of uncertainty, the euro cost $1 and 659 cents, up from $1 635 cents. Australia's S&P ASX 200 dipped 0.4% to 7,754 points, while South Korea's Kospi shed 0.4% to 2,670 points. Hong Kong Hang Seng dropped 0.6% to 16,619 points. The Shanghai Composite gained 1.3% to 3,057 points after the market regulators announced further measures to support the financial sector. Elsewhere in Asia, Taiwan's TAIEX was 1.4% lower, and the Sensex in India fell 0.8% as the country geared up for lengthy national elections processes. On Friday, shares fell on Wall Street following a mixed start to the earnings reporting season. The S&P 500 sank 1.5%, closing out in its worst week since October. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1.2%, and the Nasdaq Composite fell 1.6% from its record set the day before. A stream of reports this year has shown that both inflation and the overall economy remains hotter than expected. That has forced traders to scale back forecasts on how many times the Federal Reserve may cut its main interest rate this year. Traders are largely betting on just 2 cuts, according to the data from CME Groups, down from the forecast to at least 6 of the start of the year. UN forecasts and stock indices have already run to records, in part on expectations for such cuts. Without easier interest rates, companies will need to produce bigger points and profits to justify their stock prices, which critics say look too expensive by various measures. Don't forget, we are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. All you can do is to connect with us right now and watch us on our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X, formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live also on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. And some local news. Big banks have jumped right out of the blocks whilst the small lenders evaluate their options in a race to meet the new capital rules set by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Zenith Bank, GTCO, First Bank of Nigeria Holdings, Access Holdings opt for rights issues. The Zenith Bank PLC last Friday joined Access Bank, FBN Holdings, and Guarantee Trust Bank in announcing plans to raise additional cash to achieve the CBN's tenfold increase in minimum capital requirements. Zenith Bank is proposing an increase of 31.3 billion new shares, according to a filing with the Nigerian Exchange Limited on Friday. The bank did not suspect or specify the amount at which the new shares will be sold. At the current market price of 40 naira per share, the additional shares are valued at 1.25 trillion naira. The shares are, however, likely to be issued at discounts cheaper than the market price. Zenith has a current capital base of 270 billion naira, according to CBN's calculation, which backs out retained earnings. This means that the bank is in the market to raise 229.3 billion naira. Access Holdings PLC, the parent company of Nigeria's biggest bank by assets, was the first to announce the capital raising and the plans to go ahead with the official disclosure by the CBN on March the 28th. Access Holdings declared a total share capital of 2.1 trillion naira in its full year 2023 results. Over 4 years, the new capital requirements, but the indicators and indices retained earnings which the CBN said will not count in its calculation. The country's banking sector and environment faces a 40-month deadline to raise around 3 trillion naira to meet up the minimum capital requirements, and arrived by the central bank last month. Now we'll go to some banking stories. United Bank for Africa PLC has expressed confidence in its ability to meet the new capital base specified by Central Bank of Nigeria. In a statement issued on Sunday, the UBA's Group Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer Oliver Alauba disclosed this to the banks and local and international news. And international investors during the 2023 full-year investors conference call on Friday following the release of the bank's financial results for the year ended December 31st, 2023. The GMD Group Managing Director said that as it stands, UBA remains among the top capitalized banks, and he added that the bank is actively exploring a well-defined strategy to boost its capital base and ensure compliance within the regulatory time frame. He said that the strategy may include a combination of options such as rights issues or private placements. The fact remains that we are confident in our ability to meet the CBN's capital adequacy requirements and will keep investors informed as we progress. I want to reiterate that UBA is very capitalized, well capitalized, with shareholders' funds in excess of 2 trillion naira. Very good base. We will in due course raise the required component of capital in line with the CBN directive. The Central Bank of Nigeria in late March unveiled new minimum capital requirements for banks, pegging the minimum capital base for commercial banks with international authorization at 500 billion naira. Meanwhile, the Group Managing Director said at the end of the 2023 financial year, UBA recorded an impressive leap in gross earnings as it grew from 853.2 billion naira to close at 2.08 trillion naira, representing a strong 143% growth. Total assets also rose remarkably by 90.22% to close at 20.7 trillion naira, up from 10.9 trillion naira in 2022. UBA's profits before tax grew by 277% to close at 757.7 billion naira, up from 200.9 billion naira recorded in 2022, while profits after tax increased by 257% from the 170.2 billion naira in 2022 to 607.7 billion naira. That's a good jump, shedding more light on how the banking group intends to manage the risk of non-performing loans, especially in the face of harsh business operating climate in Africa. Alauba indicated plans to employ proactive credit monitoring, restructuring, and strategies for at-risk loans and increasing provisioning coverage. UBA's Executive Director of Finance and Risk Management, Ugo Nwagodo, in his comments, was confident of an even better performance in the 2024 financial year and pointed out that with its growing investments both in technology and IT security, the bank is well on its way to ensure growth in its business. UBA PLC operates in 20 African countries with a presence, listen to that, in New York, London, Paris, and Dubai. Truly international. Kudos, UBA. And now, to the Nigerian government, they have attributed the crude oil production shortfall recorded in the first quarter of 2024 to issues encountered on the Trans-Niger pipeline. The government said that the issue was also worsened by maintenance activities carried out by some oil companies operating in the country. Nnaemeka Okafor, the special advisor on media and communication to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources for Oil, Heineken Lokpobiri, made this known in a statement on Friday. Over the years, crude theft, pipeline vandalism, and its negative impact on the country's economy have been a source of concern for the Nigerian government. In February, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, said that Nigeria's crude oil production dropped to 1.149 million barrels per day in January from 1.422 million barrels per day recorded in December 2023. Last month, according to the oil cartel's direct communication data, Nigeria's crude oil production dropped 1.322 million barrels per day in February from 1.427 million barrels per day recorded in January. Mr. Lokpobiri on Friday said that the reported production shortfall was primarily due to issues encountered on the Trans-Niger pipeline, coupled with maintenance activities carried out by some oil companies in the country. In response to recent concerns regarding a shortfall in oil production in Nigeria during the first quarter of 2024, the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Heineken Lokpobiri, assures that the measures are being taken to address the situation, not only to restore production to previous levels, but also to increase it. The minister clarifies that the reported production shortfall was primarily due to issues encountered on the Trans-Niger pipeline, coupled with maintenance activities carried out by some oil companies operating in Nigeria, the statement said. Mr. Lokpobiri assured that the issues have been adequately addressed and production is expected to return to its previous levels in the coming days. He anticipates that Nigeria's oil production, including condensate, which was approximately 1.7 million barrels per day before these developments, will soon be restored. Furthermore, the statement said that the Ministry of Petroleum Resources is actively engaged in policy evolution aimed at maximizing the utilization of all available wells in Nigeria. This strategic approach will enable the country to ramp up production, thereby generating vital revenue to stabilize the nation's foreign exchange reserves. The increased revenue will also empower the government to fulfill its commitment in providing essential infrastructure as outlined in the 2024 budget, it said. Mr. Lokpobiri further assured Nigerians of hope as the nation navigates these challenges, while urging all to remain committed to ensuring the sustainability and growth of Nigeria's oil sector, which plays a crucial role in driving the nation's economy. We will go for a very short break, and when we return, we head straight into the interview section. Please stay tuned. It's Money Talk, it's Business Time, and it's ATN Business on Atlantic Television Network. Please stay tuned.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
you're a human
On the point of
on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought a very natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Welcome back to ATN Business on Atlantic Television Network. It's time for money, it's time for business, and time is money, and money is business. Now we are on to the interview section of this point in time, and our guest is here seated, and our guest is a power-packed financial analyst by the name of Abie Charles Daminabo. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. I know by the end of this interview, you will understand why we had to go to that extra length to get these experts to discuss with us on the few issues we have at hand. Without wasting any more of your time, let's head on for the first issue for discussion. The Made by Nigerians project, dedicated to promoting and uplifting locally made brands, has announced the unveiling of the Made by Nigerians Fair at the upcoming Kaduna Food Festival, according to a release stating starting on April the 12th at Murtala Mohammed Square in Kaduna. The three-day celebration promises an immersive experience of the heritage and culinary diversity of northern Nigeria. The organizers say that with over 200 pop-up stores, more than 50 esteemed restaurants, interactive master classes led by culinary experts, exhilarating competitions, and a captivating display of Arewa culture, attendees are in for an unforgettable experience. MBN's Chief Product Officer Chidinma Okoli expressed high excitement about the collaborative effort with the Kaduna Food Festival, emphasizing its potential to elevate Arewa brands. Whoa, we are having a revolution in this, the culinary and also the made in Nigeria sector in northern Nigeria. Most of the times when we discuss about made in Nigeria, we most of the time shift our base to the southern part of Nigeria, mostly the southeast as pertains Aba and Onisha. We also go to the southwest part of Nigeria, as represented ably by Lagos and Ogun sections of it, and maybe per se sometimes Port Harcourt. But this is a fair led by Nigerians for northern Nigeria's products, Arewa section of it. I mean, what could have brought about this change in focus of the Nigeria's productivity and industry, going and focusing it on the northern part of Nigeria? Are there any reasons why this could be so, or is it that the northern Nigeria part of made in Nigeria is is it underreported, or what are they trying to achieve in this, sir?
Okay, given the current realities, economic realities here in Nigeria, there is a need seen for business entrepreneurs all over Nigeria to come together, especially under the platform of the MBN and all that, to foster and promote, business awareness, and expertise, know-how to enhance productivity, especially in the north. It is imperative for the northern Nigeria to, to me, I would say the business community want to bring them up to speed, because it is not their business environment there is not as effective.
Robust.
Yeah, yeah, yes, as robust, yeah, with what we have here in the south. Okay. So there's a need seen for entrepreneurs all over Nigeria to improvise and enhance, educate, entrepreneurs in the north so that we can bring them up to speed.
Oh, good, good. Do you have any experience with products from the north that are sellable to the international market per se?
Yeah, the Arewa products, especially their textiles, good, designs, and mostly those golds, made in Nigerian gold design, made in the north. And most of the plastic we use are made in, is in Kano. Most of those industries are in Kano. So there's a need to enhance these things and make it more robust across all the northern states, you know, to enhance the microeconomy in that area.
Oh, good. But what are the drawbacks of Nigerian-made goods breaking through the international market? What could be, because we do use some of our locally here, we do use some of them, and we've found satisfaction in some of them, but we've not been able to make a headway in the international market per se, as pertains the export market.
For the international market, we can't compete.
Wow.
In the international market because the cost of production here in Nigeria is high. Okay. You know, considering power situation, insecurity, and all that. So Nigeria is in a phase. We are not stable, politically stable, so to speak. So with this kind of environment, we cannot be able to produce goods that we can actually be in a more or moderately favorable place in the international market.
We do understand that there we have a thriving, although unrecorded, undocumented gold market in the north. Why has this not come to the foreknowledge of the business community in Nigeria, and also as a marketable and sellable? I mean, as in gold is internationally recognized. What is the problem with Nigeria's gold market, mostly in the north?
Well, you just said it's undocumented.
Okay.
You know, it is not something in our resources, especially gold and all that are found in the north. Nigeria have not actually invested any money for exploration and more. It is not something we have not been able to, you know, come into the market and tell the world that, look, we have gold in a level whereby we can compete anywhere in the market. So since it's not documented, we don't speak of them. But however, the gold market, sometimes it's not only because you want to bring gold from the ground. The Kano market sometimes is a hub for gold exploration and production, but not necessarily produced in Kano.
Okay.
Because most West African countries like Ghana produce gold and all that, and in an industrial scale.
Good.
So we don't have a gold market here in that sort of scale. So you can only get them in the black market.
Wow. That's an underutilization of such a rare commodity in the world, and the world market is waiting on Nigeria to expand its gold market in particular, mostly in the north. Okay, let's go on to the next story because it's almost similar. Business leaders drawn from the land and operating environment. The conference themed the sustainable transformations, innovating for growth, aimed to promote experience sharing among business professionals in a bid to provide useful insights on navigating the challenges associated with doing business in Nigeria. In her opening address, the convener of the event, Linda Uneze, described DNBC 2024 as a platform where business owners can inspire one another through experience sharing. She stated that the barrage of obstacles being faced by businesses, it was imperative to foster conversations around how these hurdles could be surmounted. A big giant, that's a big giant doll in front of us.
Yes.
It's a doll in front of us because we are very industrious people. We are very, very enterprising people. But you find out that most of these our enterprises, most of our businesses, prefer to go undocumented, just as we earlier said. And also, they prefer not to be taxed. And all these are making the full potentials of that business. Also, those concerned about this same issue, and they are sharing experiences. What is the core, what in your own opinion is the core setback for business owners and doing business in Nigeria per se, sir?
To me, I would say that Nigeria is in recession.
Okay.
These are not things they bring up to the TV and all that. We are going back, and that is because of the foreign exchange markets. You know, sometimes when we lack forex, like now, 90% of Nigerian foreign exchange comes through crude oil. You know, and how does this money circulate to the individual Nigerians who are doing business? Now, in the macroeconomy, policies made by the president, especially the investors and exporters windows, in the banks, allowing banks to actually sell without, they have allowed the naira to float. And now because the naira is floating, it is now subject to market forces. You know, so both the apex market and the parallel market have almost the same value. It's a good policy, but is it working?
Okay.
It's not working because you can't really access dollar in the banks.
Exactly.
You can't even access naira. You can't go to any bank and take anything more than 50,000 naira.
Exactly.
You know, so all this affects SMEs in Nigeria. So the small businessman who cannot access money, you know, and there will only be one option for him: go to the black market.
Exactly.
And when the demand is high in the black market, there is an increase in price.
Exactly.
And you see, the black market determines the exchange rate in Nigeria because of the policy given by the federal government. And I think the IMF prescribed that to the Nigerian government. They are using that module. It's a good prescription, but is it working?
Is it working?
No, it's not working. So business owners, especially InterSwitch, IBCT, Bank Money CEOs, and the rest of them have come to say, okay, let's sit down and talk. Let's educate Nigerians on how to navigate through this, you know, difficult situation.
Exactly.
And see how we can improvise and at least be at a moderately favorable position in times like this.
I do understand that it is with best intentions that the president and his economic team, including Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance, it's in the best interest of Nigerians that they brought up this from schools and they are into small businesses. How is it that what policy can be changed or what policy can be introduced, in your own opinion? At least one or two points.
The federal government have improvised. They are saying that the I and E windows is actually a good prescription, but you know, Nigeria, the demography of Nigeria does not allow it to function as effective as intended. So there's a need seen for the federal government to improvise, and they have improvised to my own sentiments exactly. How they improvise is to put dollar into the system.
Okay.
I think recently money was put into the system.
Exactly.
You know, and it has mitigated the logistic cost from Benue to River State is higher than it should be because you're paying bandits, you're paying police, you're paying, and after you finish paying and bring these goods, the landing cost alone.
That's true.
You know, so that you see the inflation rate. So there are other variables like people keeping money in the house. There are policies that needs to be made to criminalize having more than 500,000 naira or any currency of dollar in your house.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you bring out this money into the system, the bank doesn't know about it because it's in your house.
Yes.
You know, so sometimes they prescribe to the CBN to produce more money, and when they produce, you spend that money, and there's too much money in the system, so inflation goes. So these variables, to negate the effects, the concomitant effects, federal government need to, increase. They need to increase their surveillance, their monetary policies, and all that. To help the common Nigerians.
Oh, my fellow Nigerians, you've heard from the experts on this side of the screen. We had a very high-powered representative from the finance industry here with us, and the person of Abie Charles Daminabo. We hope to see him same time next week again. He has promised us he's going to come again, and we want to thank him for being with us on ATN Business. It's a pleasure, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for it.
On this part of the show, we have to call it a wrap, and we expect you to hang on to your screen even for the coming events and the coming shows, and also